Tonight on Joynews Prime, opposition NDC demands government retrieves all monies paid out to persons involved in the suspended Ejapa mineral royalties agreement, threatening it will hit the streets if government fails to act.
To brace themselves for the biggest demonstration ever seen in the history of this country.
The party's flag bearer, who is campaigning in the Ashanti region, is promising to free persons jailed for their involvement in Galamsey.
American say ye be sha ase foforo enti enim se omo afom enso ye be sha ase foforo no ye de ombo ne be che omo enti sa enkoda na yakọ loki omo no ye be yi omo abafie.
President Akufo-Addo urges members of the governing New Patriotic Party to go all out to ensure the party wins the 2020 election.
Right up until the D-Day, we can't afford any complacency. The election is not won until the last vote has been counted. And we have to make sure that everybody who is registered will come out and vote.
Now, President Akufo-Addo, in his 19th address on COVID-19 last Sunday, made reference to a survey done on coronavirus in Ghana.
Scientists who are studying the genetic makeup of the virus in Ghana have established that the virus has not changed.
There's a lot more in that survey that you need to know about, so you can take proactive steps to protect yourself, and we'll be sharing that with you on this bulletin. In business,
many Ghanaians apply for the 2021 U.S. Visa Lottery Program. They say it holds the key to their economic fortunes.
The same suffer they suffer there, you suffer the same thing here. But by the end of the day, they come down and you realize they earn more than you. So when you had a chance, it's always good to go there.
Nothing much, I'm just trying. I've been trying for 2 years now, so I'm still trying.
Tomato farmers in Brekum West District of the Bono region are happy about the COVID-19 pandemic because it's brought them some good fortunes.
Therefore, tomato farmers in Fitenta have positively benefited from the closure of borders this major planting season.
I'm Israel, and Joynews Prime is coming to you live from our Fanafa studios at Kokomlimli here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is a home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. Do stay tuned in. The NDC is demanding that government retrieve all payments made with respect to the Ejapa mineral royalties agreement, warning it will stage a demonstration in the first week of December if government fails to act. Addressing a news conference in Accra Tuesday, General Secretary Johnson Esedun Ketia labeled President Akufo-Addo as chief enabler of corruption and urged Ghanaians to vote the government out. Bismarck Kwekwe was at the news conference and has more.
The news conference is the NDC's official reaction to Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu's corruption risk assessment report on the Ejapa royalties deal.
The NDC and other like-minded progressive forces shall embark on a series of protests and legal actions to ensure that every peso paid to these companies is refunded back to the state for nation building. And we mean every word captured in this paragraph. They should brace themselves for the biggest demonstration ever seen in the history of this country. In the first week of December this year, if Ken Ofori-Atta and Gabi Ochedako in particular don't refund the billions of taxpayers' monies they have been paid.
The party's general secretary insists the deal was an elaborate corrupt scheme cooked with the tacit approval of President Akufo-Addo.
First, the deal did not go to Parliament, to Cabinet. It went straight to the President for executive approval, which was granted. And the established processes for seeking executive approval are all known. Ministers go to seek executive approval through the Secretary to Cabinet. On this occasion, Because perhaps the secretary to cabinet may not be a member of the family.
The NDC also alleged Deputy Finance Minister Charles Eduboahe was made to sign the agreement as cover for the Finance Minister, whose involvement is a classic case of conflict of interest.
They chose to select somebody like the Deputy Minister. I believe he was pushed to do it on the pain of being sacked if he refused. Because that is what is playing out. Because Finance Minister thinks that if his signature is detected on these documents, they will be citing his company as conflict of interest.
The party has also taken issue with the special prosecutor for failing to initiate criminal prosecution against the persons he cited for wrongdoing in his report.
If the agreements under which these companies were made are null and void, then so are the payments made thereto. Hence, they must be refunded to the state. Interestingly, I did not find anywhere where the special prosecutor insists that these refunds must be made immediately.
The NDC says it will thoroughly investigate the matter should it win power in December and retrieve all monies wrongly paid out and prosecute where necessary.
Luckily, the 4 more years slogan has been discredited by the Americans. And so I'm very sure that Ghanaians will know what 4 more years stands for. If you have a president in his first term of office where he's expecting to please the nation to vote and give him a second term, even in that first term, you see this type of misrule.
Now, still with the NDC, former President John Mahama says person to have been jailed for galamsey will be pardoned if he's elected in the upcoming December elections. Speaking at Abeswa in the Ashanti region on the first of his 6-day tour, he stated although those incarcerated have committed an offense against the state, a future NDC government as part of a new mining sector reform will free them.
Maka says Nyamia Adom nearby. Obi a yaje ni machine bia yebeje na de asande na de amano. Ezu asasi aye tu sika kokko wo so aye mining concession na ebinu wo small scale mining concessions omo on krata bibia aye cover sa concession no abai we buy omo age sa concessions ni nyina e na omo acheche ama party mpenyimfo ene ebusuafo nti sa de no so ye ba obi a yaje ne concession bia ye beje na de ne asade na de ama no Ezu Eza Yamabuduni be because of the fight against galamsey. Oma chichi omo edi oma koto efiase. Nshishe foforo yede benti. Ni America ne se yebe sha ase foforo. Enti enim se omo afom. Enso yebe sha ase foforo no yede ombone becha omo. Enti sa enkoda na yakọ loki omo no. Yebe yi omo abafie. Na nshishe no yaye no foforo. Senebeya afe obia be hu se sei and small scale mining emra edasuni na yenyina yediso.
He has also been criticizing President Akufo-Addo for what he says is discrimination against communities where the MPP did not win. He says although the NDC does not win elections in the Ashanti region, the party makes sure the region receives its fair share of the national cake.
Yebotaya yadeba foforo yedim se mpunto de obi enim se ye mpunto hene enti yeba mo akwan mo aya sabia secondary schools this anyoma na yade a yeba yebe ezu na yeso Yaba, Yen Nipa ye mu. Yan Cassa Yanto Aba Mayo ha into Yen Punto. Nani or my penny or baby one crying, a Puncatamanso. And our henny now, or so my bread any short cutting. Baby, they are so both from you, they are so both from into almost implementation. Names of Casa and I know my penny there. Nanyo catch or henny say, Nasa moment to Abam, mammy, it's a was Bobia, Fabo near Otto Abamano. On my penny, Casasa. If it's over your man penny, or your man penny Magana, you know. Nasa Ashanti region, Yendi Kunimo Ashanti region da. So share in Juma Yaya wa Ashanti region. Na idea so ini.
President Akufo-Addo on his part has urged members of the governing New Patriotic Party to ensure there is no room for complacency in the upcoming general elections. For him, the election is not won until the last vote is counted. At a meeting with the Association of Assembly Members in the Greater Accra region, the president said he's confident of victory in the December 7 elections.
I like very much the commitment that has been made, the decision that even without resources you have begun to work. I've identified 4 constituencies in Accra which you think are winnable and which you're going to work to win it. But I think this is the spirit. Yeah, because one thing, and then you're possible, say, that's out. That's completely out. You know, the atmosphere in the country is good for us. It's very good for us. Therefore, we push it and push it right up until the D-Day. We can't afford any complacency. The election is not won until the last vote has been counted. And we have to make sure that everybody who is registered will come out and vote this year's election.
Stephen Akwa says members have doubts about the sincerity of the promise by the NDC flag bearer John Mahama to pay them salary if elected at the polls.
Nana, yeah, born to 2016, GDI enya omua waye aboayen, and they ye sign Akwa koto ababium. Nana ya titi bebre, se ebinum ese assembly members enka omutua ye ka eye. Nana aketua ne de yegu yi ye gidi pa se yetua ye ka eye. Nanso nana 2012 2016 elections papa enne ose obetimi yetua ye ka no. Nana ye hwe ne manifesto ni mu na ewo mpa se opese omayisika bi nanso esanse 2012 wenti mi ane enti na ye nya ne mugidie anto ama ne 2016 enti na yegu ye nim se so bi betimi atua assembly members ka ana wa ma ye ho ahare a na e wo se eye na adedankwa Akufo-Addo nana ne senti ye wogidie wa rehemu se sanya we hu assembly member na mpo ne busy schedules nyina echi no wa ma ye kwan se ye no mbedi nkomo nana ye gidi se 2021 ekọ inanim no se ye boa e ma ye bontoa e ma nana adedankwa Akufo-Addo ne naban enya form a ye betimi ama ye ho ahareyen e wo ye dwumedi a ye di mu nana se ye betimi aye we nyina na me adom.
Now, just about 3 more weeks to the December 7 polls, political parties, especially the NDC and the MPP, are racing against time to win more votes to earn them another term in government. While the NDC is showing off its support base through health walks in the Oti region, the MPP is strategizing to either share equally or win a majority of the 8 constituencies there. Government spokesperson on governance and law, Herbert Krapper, has donated 50 motorbikes to the Oti MPP campaign to help the team reach every voter in the region. Peter Senu has more.
The target of the MPP in the December 2020 polls for the Oti region is to win 5 out of the 8 parliamentary seats. The MPP currently has only 1 seat, with 7 to the NDC. This narrative over the years, even from the then Volta region, is what the MPP wants to turn around on December 7. It is in this regard that Herbert Crapper, who is government's spokesperson on governance and law, is supporting the regional campaign team with 50 motorbikes to enable it send its message to every nook and cranny in the region. According to him, the MPP has performed well in 4 years to deserve another term in office.
Also a promising region for the New Patriotic Party. We know that if we continue with the hard work that we are doing and continue to put in all the effort that we are putting in and even do more, we know that we will be able to secure as many constituencies as we should in this region. I've told the leadership of the party that a minimum of 5 constituencies. I'm hoping and expecting that they should be able to deliver for the New Patriotic Party. We are confident that the work that President Akufo-Addo has done in the course of 4 years, we are confident that the Ghanaian people would recognize and appreciate it and return him to office for a second term to continue with everything that he is doing. We are confident that the Ghanaian people would appreciate it and return him to power.
Herbert Crapper is also calling on the youth to ensure peace at the December polls.
Not because we're going to show that we are stronger than anybody. We're going to throw blows and going to hurt ourselves. No. If there's anything that we should do, and the atmosphere in Ghana today is good, we should keep it up and even make it better. That Ghana is today the harbinger of democracy, a bastion of multi-party democracy on our continent and beyond. That accolade, that credential is something that we need to safeguard and protect. And the people of Oti, I know, will conduct themselves well into the polls and beyond.
Evans Dapa is the Oti NPP regional chairman. He is calling on residents in the region to change from voting the NDC to giving a chance to the MPP.
Oti region is a very deprived one. We need help. We need people like Honorable Crapper to come and help us salvage the situation. The NDC has actually taken advantage of our ignorance in a sense that we started voting the NDC since 1992 till date. Nothing good has come out of it. So what we are telling the good people of Oti is that the time has come for us to change. In life, there is one constant thing, and that thing is the word change. So we are preaching to the good people of Oti to come on board with us so that we can bridge the development deficit. And I know President Akufo-Addo is a man of his words. He's going to deliver to help Oti as a region to grow or develop.
Herbert Crapper has also been interacting with constituency executives in the region. Peter Hassan for Joynews.
Now, a number of presidential candidates contesting the December elections are lamenting the failure of the police to assign them protection with less than a month to the polls. The team of the only independent presidential candidate says he has had to employ the services of macho men as the police is yet to respond to a formal request for protection. Alfred Walker and his running mate on Monday paid a courtesy call on the Gamanche at the Ga Traditional Council. There's more in the following report.
Mr. Asiedu Walker and his running mates were at the Ga Traditional Council to pay homage to the Gamanche, even as the various contenders in the presidential race ramp up their outreach on the electorate. His running mate, Jacob Oseyeboa, told Joynews the failure by the police to assign protection remains a major problem.
No, but we don't feel safe. You are forced to use what we term as macho men, the unconventional security, and with them anything can happen. But we are forced to use them because the state is refusing to give us the needed security. So this is what is happening. We don't have any security men assigned to us, but sometimes you can use your own maybe you can get some of these security men to move with you. But we need the official one as is done conventionally and for every election year. It's a bit tricky. We've written to the IGP. We've been having conversation with them, and we are hoping, if possibly, it's either today or so. But up till now, as presidential candidates, we've not yet had any security details, and it's quite, we are actually in the state of apprehension. With my two-term experience, we've never had such an issue.
Asiedu Walker shared his vision for Ghana with a Gamanche and also explained why he believes the bi-weekly salary scheme that he is proposing is better than the current arrangement.
Should we make it? I've also proposed bi-weekly salaries, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Payday must be 2 weeks. Should we have it? I see no reason why somebody being paid 500 or even 1,000 cedis a month shouldn't get half of it every 2 weeks, so they are relieved in their problems. You have people who have borrowed money before the month is over, and they cannot even pay their rent. They've borrowed money to support their children in hospitals, and they can't even pay their rent. So yes, we are going to institute some policies that are done elsewhere in this world.
Watching Joynews Prime Boy, taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin. President Akufo-Addo in his 19th address on COVID-19 last Sunday made reference to a survey done on coronavirus in Ghana.
Scientists who are studying the genetic makeup of the virus in Ghana have established that the virus has not changed.
There's a lot more to that survey, which I'll be sharing with you right here on this bulletin, including the fact that there's a particular segment of the population that's quite at risk or most at risk when it comes to COVID-19. Stay tuned in. Government has been engaging researchers across the country towards consolidating various studies conducted on the coronavirus pandemic. This follows a recent spike in the country's active cases, raising fears of a possible second wave of the virus. As part of the engagement, which will present an opportunity to harness knowledge built on the virus, Health Minister Kweku Agyeman says government will commission specific studies to inform its approach to dealing with the virus.
The numbers of new infections came as low as 25. But as yet, yesterday, 9th November 2020, 198 new cases had been announced with over 1,056 active cases. A lot more to do ahead of us. Permit me to thank our hard-working health professionals and stakeholders for all the support. His Excellency the President has already announced the 3 more months of extension of tax holiday and 50% of basic salary increment for the frontline health workers. One area we have identified is how do we work with the universities and research institutions to allow us to benefit symbiotically from the researches going on at your institutions. How do we coordinate those pieces of information to support their response? Or simply put, how could the academic guns come to town? Fortunately, I'm informed that a number of researches have been conducted on this virus, and we at the Ministry of Health need to be aware of the findings and recommendations to help make informed decisions at the highest level. As we debate the wearing of face masks, and why people are not wearing these masks, and the possible vaccine deployment, the need for formative studies to understand the COVID vaccine acceptability, community perceptions, concerns, and trusted information sources will be needed. This will inform the design of communication plans and messages that we could roll out in preparation for COVID-19 vaccine introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I consider this meeting a round-table discussion of experience sharing that will help in making decisions to avoid the second wave should that become the reality.
Well, one of the studies that the president has already made reference to has to do with the study done by the scientists at the West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, WACBIP, in collaboration with their colleagues at Noguchi, and it indicates that 1 million people already have been exposed to COVID-19 in Accra. And we'll be speaking with the scientists as far as this study is concerned. But right now, the National Health Insurance Authority says it will not hesitate to blacklist hospitals, clinics, and other health facilities that continue to deny patients care under the scheme. Chief Executive Officer Dr. Lydia Janselby says clients must report the conduct of such health facilities to help root out corruption, to make the system stronger and better. Dr. Selby was speaking after a float in Cape Coast as part of the National Health Insurance Week celebration. Richard Kojunyako has more.
The National Health Insurance Authority is seeking to reconnect with subscribers and those that are yet to subscribe. Staff of the authority are expected to be in the various communities seeking to woo many with the gospel of the NHIA that has gone digital by using their mobile phones to reconnect and access health care. The staff, joined by their CEO on Tuesday, embarked on a float in Cape Coast to create awareness about the National Health Insurance Authority, reacting to complaints that subscribers often go to the hospital but are only told that the drugs that are on the list are not available. CEO of the authority, Dr. Lydia Janselby, warned health facilities that abuse the health insurance system and maltreat their clients would be taken off, as 2 of the facilities in the Bono region have already been taken off.
We need to hear from you. What are your problems? What are the issues you are facing? Why don't you want to be on NHIS? Then we can solve it and we move the nation forward. So go to our website, check. You'll see there's about 600 medicines on the list. Everything you need for every illness we have in Ghana is on that medicines list.
The practical aspect is that when they go there...
That is why our district staff will be going around to check these things. Any clinic or hospital which consistently maltreats members will take you off the health insurance. So we have given part of the control to you, the public. Use it so that the health insurance will grow stronger. Have faith in us. Things are working now.
She empowered consumers to use their mobile phones to help make the system better by reporting the conduct of health facilities to the authority for investigations and subsequent actions.
We have 23 million people in our database. Only 12.6 million are active. We want the rest to come, another 10 million. If you are new, please try and get registered this week. The Vice President has waived the 1 month waiting period. No penalties, no matter how long ago. Please come back this week.
We're taking a break to bring you more news, but still ahead. President Akufo-Addo in his 19th address on COVID-19 last Sunday made reference to a survey done on coronavirus in Ghana.
Scientists who are studying the genetic makeup of the virus in Ghana have established that the virus has not changed.
That same study also indicates over 1 million people in Greater Accra alone may have been exposed to COVID-19. In business, for the many Ghanaians applying for the 2021 US visa lottery, which will give them a chance to live and work in the US, they believe it holds the key to their economic liberation.
The same suffer they suffer there, you suffer the same thing here. But by the end of the day, they come down and you realize they earn more than you. So when you had a chance, it's always good to go there.
Nothing much, I'm just trying. I've been trying for 2 years now, so I'm still trying.
More after the break, stay tuned in.
Hello, good evening. It's time for business. I'm Charles Aite. Now, the U.S. lottery application deadline for this year's program has ended. Many Ghanaians who partook of the green card lottery say it holds the key to their economic fortunes. I visited some commercial registration sites, and here's the rest of the story.
To register for the U.S. lottery.
Kofiteria is part of many Ghanaians who believe their economic fortunes will improve while they live and work in the United States as immigrants.
I like Ghana, but it is good when you go there, because of the inflation, the small dollar you bring here, you change, you get a lot of money, you push your agendas. That is the main reason why I want to go.
Joseph Iboa is a bus driver. He lost his job to the COVID-19 pandemic. He's had to scout for petty jobs to sustain his family. To him, his prosperity, financial independence strongly hinges on the U.S. visa lottery.
We do business, no money, no nothing, with a tire, nothing. And so we want to travel, then we go find our future.
Did you lose your job?
Yeah.
You lost your job?
Yeah. I've lost the jobs. Yeah, I'm the transport owner. Now the things I had, no passenger to hand the car, to join the car. That's the only thing with the software. No money to.
Even without electricity, these guys have managed to get for themselves a generator set to register so many people under their tent. We got inside to interact with some of them who have been doing this for the past few weeks ever since the registrations opened. But how many guys have we been able to register today?
For the number, I'm not sure of the number unless I finish working before I'll check.
All these books here are people that you've registered?
Yes, please.
All these books?
Yeah, all these books.
Ever since the whole thing started, how many guys have come here?
It will be in the 400, 500.
Ghana's appetite for U.S. visas has seen illegal visa businesses thrive. In a past high-profile incident, a fake U.S. embassy, which had operated thrice a week for 10 years in Accra, was shut down.
They are saying that some of these people who are outside is fraud. But to me, I don't know. So even when I got, I was questioning him as to whether this is what people are saying.
We have been facing some challenges like that. They will come and they will be asking, like, I went to this place, they not ask me this, I went to this place, they not. So one time they come and they will be asking you. So I also tell them what I know.
In 2015, the most recent year for which data is available, Ghana, with 1.73 million people, accounted for the highest number of applicants for the U.S. Diversity Visa Program, also known as Green Card Lottery.
What I've realized is the same suffer they suffer there, you suffer the same thing here. But by the end of the day, they come down and you realize they earn more than you. So when you had a chance, it's always good to go there.
Nothing much, I'm just trying. I've been trying for 2 years now, so I'm still trying. If something good comes out of it, fine.
Why do you want to go to the U.S.?
I don't have any particular reason, but it's part of life. It's an experience thing. So
America is everyone's dream, and America is my dream. I want to be there, so why not? If I get a chance to be there, I'll be very glad to.
Are you saying you're not making it in Ghana?
I'm making it in Ghana. Ghana is cool. Ghana is very peaceful, a great nation, but we can't compare America to Ghana. At least we have to go and make some money and come back home and take care of the family. 3 issues are on the minds of these registrants who are partaking of this year's U.S. DV visa lottery. The first is the COVID-19 pandemic, which has killed over 250,000 Americans. They believe this could give them the best shot in this year's lotteries. The second has to do with the American elections, with Donald Trump losing and Joe Biden winning the elections. They believe that Joe Biden, the presidential-elect, gives them much more hope when it comes to the DREAMS Act and the various economic policies that he has brought on board. The last but not the least is Ghana's economy and the loss of several jobs due to COVID-19. Over 80,000 businesses have been lost, and most of these guys say it's the best chance for them to move a step closer to their dreams. I'm Charles Aite reporting for Joy Business.
Away from that, the Deputy Energy Minister, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, says the government has not abandoned plans for the private participation in ECG. Now, the minister disclosed this at the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distribution Companies Energy Town Hall meeting for the two major political parties. George Rafi was there and now reports.
According to the minister, there is already some sort of private involvement in the company. However, the only challenge now is whether they should be allowed to take over the management of ECG.
We have indicated to the people of Ghana that as a party that is committed to private sector participation, we are still committed to it. Except that we are looking at private sector participation more broadly than what was handed over to us. And therefore, when we are satisfied with the kind of private sector participation, we will inform the people of Ghana. I do agree with Bachi that there need to be deeper consultation, discussions about the kind of private sector participation we want.
Also disclosed that the debt owed ECG has been cleared, whilst implementing a new strategy that will put the company on a strong footing to effectively manage its own resources. On whether government will sign a new power purchase agreement, the minister noted that they are working to resolve all the current issues before they explore new one. The deputy minister also revealed that there's some sort of mandate being given to the board of TOR to explore some private participation in the institution.
Yes, we have awarded only the Exxon contract, and after the licensing round, yes, I have to say that the licensing round that we did, which other people call competitive bidding, they take different models. For some, you compete for everything, every item. That we call the biddable items. You compete for everything in the entire petroleum agreement. For others, you have biddable items and you have non-biddable items, which means that the non-biddable items have to be negotiated. And so what we did was a model that had the two. You had biddable items that companies will bid for, and on the basis of who gives you, the best, you select that company. But there are other items we call non-biddable items in this license round we did. The negotiations of the non-biddable items is what has delayed.
And that'll be it for business for this segment. We're back after 8. Sports is up next.
Thank you for staying with us on Joynews Prime. Gary Al Smith here with the sport. In our first story, Ghana's 2022 African Cup of Nations qualifying match against Sudan in Cape Coast on Thursday will be played behind closed doors because of COVID-19. Now, this is part of a number of measures taken by CAF and to ensure that games are played in the safest possible way.
The Ghana Football Association says this is part of a number of measures taken by the Confederation of African Football to ensure that games are played in the safest possible way. According to CAF, games have to be played under strict conditions to ensure that players, referees, and officials are protected from the coronavirus pandemic. Players, technical team members, essential service providers, and ball boys will undergo a mandatory COVID-19 test before the match. The GFA statement includes that there will be no post-match press conference, mixed zone, and flash photo opportunities, as only photographers of the two teams will be granted access. Ghana will lock horns with Sudan on Thursday, November 12, 2020, in a match day 3 fixture scheduled for 4 p.m. at the Cape Coast Stadium.
And as part of Joy Sports' build-up to the Ghana Premier League, Nathaniel Atto visited Liberty Professionals training grounds earlier today. He spoke to striker Emmanuel Paga, who joined from Vision FC, and the head coach of the club, David Oklu.
They've done their bit when it comes to writing the big script of Ghana football. And this is simply because they've produced some wonderful talents that have gone to the greater benefit of Ghana as a nation. Well, in terms of their achievements on the local scene, Liberty Professionals have one top 4 title to their credit. And this they won some 13 years ago when they had some big and committed players. Well, years on, Liberty Professionals want to get back to that skin of old days. This is a special with Liberty Professionals by Joy Sports ahead of the Ghana Premier League season.
I was told by my manager that I had a contract with Liberty, they called my team and blah blah blah. I was not sure because I was thinking I'll go back to Vision to train. So my manager called me that this what is going, this what is on board. And I said, manager, I don't know anything. So I was there when I had a call from Liberty Professional and they told me that they have spoke with my manager and my team, my club, so I was supposed to report. So when I heard the news, I was happy.
After a very comprehensive training session, we're spending a bit of time with Coach David Oklu. Now, tell me about the mood in camp. I mean, I saw you today, we were observing, you know, how training was going and everything. Tell me generally how the mood is like and how the psyche is like in camp.
I think morale is very high. The boys are very enthusiastic. They are ready to play. And you can see from the drills we do that they are all willing to work. And I'm impressed. I like the way the mood is.
Coach, what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned during the last season, which unfortunately was truncated due to COVID-19?
It's like we were not consistent. But this time, I think we've learned from the past how we should cope with the pressure, because during the truncated season, after let's say 5 or matches, and fatigue also set in, and you know the boys were a bit tired. So this time we are adjusting things to see how best they will come out and play.
This is the home of scientific soccer in Ghana, and we're all looking forward to seeing how much of that scientific soccer will be put on display when the Liberty Boys go up against Bichim United.
That will be on Sunday in the kickoff. We are 4 days away from the start of the Ghana Premier League. And let's show you what we have on Instagram in terms of our coverage. So I've told you about the Black Stars, what's going on with them, and also a story from Liberty Professionals. You should be expecting more of that in our Super Ghana Football Weekend, like you can see there. Today, earlier today, we had the Joy Sports La Liga Masterclass, where we educated 14 Ghana Premier League clubs on how to use digital and social media. Tomorrow is Heart of Oak's birthday. We have a documentary on that, plus the AFCON build-up. And then on the 12th on Thursday, we have live Ghana versus Sudan on Joy FM radio commentary. On Friday, we have the GPL Primer, the Omnibus edition with Muftau and Hans Mensah Andor. And then on Saturday, Nathaniel Atto comes with Sportslink. And on Sunday, we have Ashgold versus Karela. All Ghana football all the time here on Joy Sport. I'm Gary Al Smith. I'll be back on the other side of 8 for more.
It's time for Showbiz, and Becky Bex is here. Hello, Bex.
Hello to you.
You were missed yesterday.
Yeah.
But anyway, Noella took charge. Oh. All right, so what's up?
I'm confused and a bit sad as well, because I don't know who will buy a casket.
Okay, you're referring to the Zimbabwean socialite.
Yes, I don't know who will want to do that, but he did. Beautiful one, of course. Looks like a ship. Yeah, he reportedly bought the casket a week prior to his death on Sunday, November 8th, according to the Zimbabwe Mail. The casket was found in a spare bedroom in the celebrity's home following his death. Easy.
All right. So for those of you who are not aware of this story, there's this Zimbabwean socialite who you'd see him on Instagram with flashy cars, Rolls Royce, and all sorts of high-end, expensive, luxurious vehicles. And he died.
He died in one of his cars. One of the Rolls Royce. It actually crashed. And I don't know. I see, when I saw the story, I've been thinking, who would do that? Did he foresee something like that? But he was in the car with other people, other friends, and this makes me very sad.
Yeah.
May he?
I'm sure it's going to be a mystery for a while. Okay, let's move on.
Well, let's move on. I can't mention the name. So give me something.
Oh, Ginimbi, I guess. Ginimbi Kadungure.
Kadungure. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Let's move on from him. Let's talk about Manifest. Finally, he's worked on something, and we're expecting something very exclusive. He won't say. He says he told IB that this is his best work yet.
Not an endorsement of a political party.
No.
How do you know?
Too bad. No.
How do you know for sure?
Well, he's been on. Somebody asked him on social media that.
Is he endorsing a political?
No, he said that the person asked Manifest to go and support his dad.
Okay.
You know, and the person didn't get it. Well,
right.
So let's listen to Manifest.
The project is done. It's been done. Just working on what to do next for it, and then I'm also working on other stuff that's not mine, but with some other artists as well. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But in terms of my stuff, it's done. It was a really productive year because we inside life this year we got to spend a lot of time inside. So guess what? That means a lot of us as artists recorded a lot. So I'm very proud of the work that I have put together this year. It's a tricky thing to say, but it probably easily for me is my best work yet.
Okay, when are you putting this probably your best work out?
I can't, if I say it there, they will start doing their calculations, so I can't say yet. When it's getting closer to time, I'll let it be known.
Everybody,
So that was Manifest right there. Okay. But Kwao Kese is out with a song, Politicians' Money, or Politics Money. So
I heard
Samini Wajini Pension Pay. So essentially, Kwao is saying that all these names, Samini, Kwao, he mentioned Kwame Yuji at a point, that they've gone to take some of the political parties' money.
Yeah.
So if if you need money or if you're hungry, you can just, go. But SAC is insisting that he hasn't,
He didn't do this for
He didn't do this for...
Well, he hasn't endorsed.
He hasn't endorsed any, but the song is just a happy song. That's all.
That was an awesome surprise you pulled on Kwame Eugene.
Yes.
Why? Had you discussed you were going to come here with him?
No, so he didn't know. But I was in town today. Today I stepped out just to go chill, and then they told me that the show is happening here. So I said, why not? Let me just pass through and just surprise him. Yeah.
Well, it was a good surprise. And this particular track of yours with him has aroused a lot of controversy and talk.
Yes, but it's as you saw, the people love it, and that's what we wanted for the song, for the people. So it's for the people. Yeah.
Well, that was a good song. That was a good song. And
happy song.
Sarkodie will never. I don't know.
All right. That's it. Thank you very much, Becky Bex, for bringing the showbiz. And that'll be it for those of you who are watching on Joy Prime. But there's more news on the Joynews channel, including that interview on COVID-19, the COVID-19 seroprevalence survey. Stay tuned. The Tomato Farmers Association in Brekum West District of the Blue Region says the closure of Ghana's land borders by President Akufo-Addo has positively impacted their business. According to the association, higher sales of fresh tomatoes has been recorded by farmers during the major season this year compared to previous years. Joynews' Nestor Kafui, who visited the tomato farmers at Fitinta, reports that they are elated about the border closure and want an extension since it has benefited them.
Tomato farmers across the country, especially those in Fitinta, have over the years decried the lack of interest by traders to purchase their tomato. This situation has resulted in massive loss to the farmers because the traders prefer to buy tomatoes from Burkina Faso. The year 2020 has been a blessing in disguise for these farmers due to the closure of the land borders. Stephen Odro is the chairman of Fitinta Tomato Farmers Association.
Planting for food and jobs.
Government's Planting for Food and Jobs initiative has encouraged more youth to increase their acreage of tomato production. We will be running at a loss if traders fail to purchase our tomatoes but travel to Ouagadougou. Therefore, tomato farmers in Fitinta have positively benefited from the closure of borders this major planting season. So we will appreciate if government can devise ways and means that will cause traders to buy our tomatoes.
Stephen Odro further calls on government and its agencies to help make vegetable cultivation, particularly tomatoes, more attractive to the teeming youth.
One, because over here land here that way.
One, we need irrigation dam to help us do all year round farming. Even though government has largely subsidized fertilizer, we struggle so much to get it. We therefore need government to make them readily available to the tomato farmers in Fitenta. Again, our farm roads are also in very bad shape, so we need the authorities to fix them for us. Access to finance remains a major challenge. The few financial institutions package their loans with exorbitant interest rates. We call on the government to intervene.
The chief of Fitenta, Nana Kofi Ntiyebua II, appeals for a regulatory body to check the pricing of fresh tomatoes as well as other vegetables.
Fitenta has several hectares of fallow land for planting tomato. The fear is getting good price for the farm produce after spending so much time and money on the farm. Government should initiate commodity price regulatory mechanisms to ensure that tomato and other vegetable growers are served with fair market prices.
For now, tomato farmers here at Fitenta in the Brekum West district of the Bono region are feverishly working on their farms in order to maximize profits this minor season, since the traders across the country will fall on them for fresh tomatoes. Nesta Kafui Ajuma reporting from Fitenta in the Bono region.
Now, President Akufo-Addo, in his national address last Sunday on measures to check the spread of coronavirus in Ghana, made reference to a study by scientists at the West Africa Center for Cell Biology and Infectious Pathogens.
And an analysis of the active case data suggests that the Greater Accra region accounts for some 75%, with Ashanti, Bono, East, and Western being responsible for 16% of active cases. The remaining 11 regions make up 4% of the cases, with the rivals at Kotoka International Airport responsible for the other 5%. Scientists at the West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens at the University of Ghana, Legon, collaborating with the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, who are studying the genetic makeup of the virus in Ghana, have established that the virus has not changed.
Well, that same study stated that though Ghana's COVID-19 case count is just about 50,000 cases, more than 1 million people in Greater Accra and Kaswa have been infected by SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. For the researchers, the study provides evidence that COVID-19 was never in decline, as suggested by the new cases being reported daily by the Ghana Health Service. Now, another aspect of the survey has to do with the segment of the population most exposed to the virus. Dr. Yao Bediako is a research fellow at WACBIP, and he actually participated in this survey, or he was one of those who was involved in this survey. Thank you very much, Dr. Yao Bediako, for making time to speak with us. Now, one of the interesting findings that you came up with is the fact that quite a number of people have been exposed to COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 in Greater Accra, in the Greater Accra region. You're looking at about 1.2 million people. Explain to us what exactly that means.
Thank you, Israel. So our study was basically based on the concept of sampling. So we actually tested about 1,300 people from a cross-section of people across the Greater Accra region and Kaswa. So we visited lorry parks, we visited markets, malls, healthcare facilities. And basically what we found was about 19.6 or close to 20% of the individuals we sampled had antibodies to SARS-CoV-2, indicating that they had been infected in the past. And so when you extrapolate from that sample, if you say the Greater Accra region has roughly 5 to 6 million people, When you extrapolate that 20%, then you're looking at numbers around 1 to 1.2 million people. So that's how we arrived at that estimation. It is an estimation because it is impossible, it's impractical to test every single person in the Greater Accra region. But prevalence studies are based on taking a representative sample of a cross-section of the population and then extrapolating that data to make projections about prevalence in an area.
So the 1,300 people you say you sampled, did they indicate if they had ever had or tested positive for COVID-19?
Majority of them had never even had a COVID-19 test. A few of them who were health workers, frontline healthcare workers working in treatment facilities, of course, had access to a PCR test, and a few of them had been confirmed positive. So our test typically confirmed if an individual we interviewed had a positive PCR test in the past, typically we found that they had antibodies. But for the large majority, I would say well over 90% of the people we sampled had never had any form of COVID-19 test, which I think is quite typical of the general population in Ghana.
All right, which then also goes to, or is very much in line with the stats we're getting from COVID, that a majority of the people will be asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic, which would mean that they would have the virus, but they wouldn't show symptoms, and so they wouldn't be ill, and so they wouldn't need a test.
Yes, I think well over 90% of people globally who've had COVID-19 have been asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic. And that is why the strategy of testing, tracing, and treating is so important, because if you do not test individuals, you do not typically detect the virus. And so, even locally, our government policy for a long time in the beginning was basically going out to try to test people regardless of whether they showed symptoms. So yes, majority of people who have had COVID-19 in Ghana will probably not have realized it, or if they did, they maybe had mild cold-like symptoms and just powered through. But the issue is, because of that, it makes detecting infected people challenging. And of course, these people, once infected, can spread to other people who may not fare as well as they did, based on perhaps underlying conditions, the age of the individual who gets infected. So that's what makes COVID-19 so difficult to control, because a large majority of people who have the disease do not show any signs or symptoms.
All right. Now, another thing I found out in the survey that you put out, the research that you put out, is that there was a particular segment of the population, or there's some particular segment of the population that are most at risk. Please explain that to us.
Okay, so as I said, the purpose of the study was really to get an idea of the true burden of disease in Greater Accra region and Kaswa. Because, as I said previously, without testing everybody, it's very difficult to get a clear idea, because, if you only test a very small proportion and you stick you peg your numbers at confirmed cases, you are typically underestimating severely the number of cases, because so many people don't have symptoms. So by doing this prevalence study, the idea was to get a sense of how, what the burden really was, and to make it representative, we tried as best as possible not to just sample a single demographic. So we tried to sample people from different socioeconomic classes, different occupations, different work environments, to try to get a sense of what COVID in Greater Accra really looked like. Now, what that allowed us to do also was to then segment our data and compare the risk profiles between individuals with different socioeconomic standing, different levels of education. And what we found was overwhelmingly people in the informal sector, people with a primary education or less, and people who were in lower socioeconomic classes typically were more at risk. Their risk of being positive for antibodies and therefore having previously been infected was significantly higher than individuals who worked in more formal settings, individuals who had higher income or higher levels of education. And I think this goes to demonstrate that whereas in the very beginning, COVID was viewed as a disease of people in East Legon and Jolu, people who had the means to travel, because originally cases that came into Ghana were by airplane. So if you couldn't afford a plane ticket and go to Europe or Asia, you were not at risk. Once the virus entered the country and began to spread within the community, very quickly it transformed into what we typically see with outbreaks and pandemics of this type, that it tends to, it tends to impact people who are in lower socioeconomic classes, people who live in more crowded settings, who work in more crowded settings, who take public transport to work as opposed to driving their own car. These are all things that make people more likely to come into contact with a contagious disease. And so now our data demonstrates that the disease is no more the disease of the relatively affluent in the affluent parts of Accra, but is now circulating very freely among people who are in the informal sector and who have less means, in fact, to deal with such a virus.
In other words, it would then mean that the people who are in those less affluent segments of the population would have to take better care of themselves. Or if they did that, then they'll be better insulated or better protected.
Yes, I mean, I think we all have to take very good care of ourselves regardless of our socioeconomic bracket. But certainly, if you live in a compound house with 15 to 20 other people sharing maybe a common kitchen and a bathroom versus living in an apartment or a single family home where you're just with your immediate family of 4 or 5, certainly wearing a face mask, those living in a flat or in a single family home may not need to wear a face mask during the evenings when they're home because, they're just with very close family. Versus if you live in a compound house with 15 or 20 people, now your risk profile is significantly greater because each of those people has gone to work, has taken trotro, and so you have no idea what is really circulating in your home. The same applies to public transport. There are certain people who never take a trotro because they have their own car, they drive to work in air-conditioned environment, they go sit in an office, and then they go back home. Versus people who have to go queue at a lorry park, get into a crowded trotro in the middle of the day, twice a day, going to work and coming back. All of that puts you at much greater risk. So yes, you talk about mask wearing. If you're in your car on your own, there's no need to wear a mask. But if you're in a crowded trotro, absolutely you need to be wearing a mask. So yes, people, based on our data, it suggests that people in who take public transportation, who are in lower socioeconomic classes or work in the informal sector, are the ones who absolutely must be adhering to the guidelines as much as possible to protect themselves.
Now, Dr. Bediako, have you and your colleagues at WACPE been able to establish why we're seeing the recent surge in the COVID-19 cases?
It's difficult for anyone to pinpoint specifically the reason. I mean, I think a lot more work will have to be done.
There have been suggestions that it has to do with the uptake in political campaigning or political activity, but the information minister doesn't think that could be, that claim holds.
I think any gathering that aggregates people is bound to cause more spread. We've seen this around the world. We saw it in the UK when pubs opened, people were going out, all of a sudden their cases go up, and now they're in the middle of their second national lockdown. In Ghana, we've seen a gradual easing of restrictions. We've seen a gradual laxing in personal discipline. Individuals, I think the president himself mentioned that mask wearing had fallen to 5%. And yes, if you look around, there are political gatherings, there are funerals, there are weddings, there are all kinds of events taking place where large numbers of people are aggregating. There are health walks, which in this day and age befuddles me because, what is more healthy than protecting yourself? So all of these activities, whether they are politically motivated or not, are aggregating people. And these are all ways in which this virus is spread. This is not rocket science. This is something that has been demonstrated all over the world. When you aggregate large numbers of people, they call them basically super spreader events. You have, we've seen them even in the US at the White House when they had a large gathering and several of President Trump's staff tested positive shortly thereafter. So I think our uptick in cases is tied directly, and I find it, I don't think anyone can really argue this. Our uptick in cases is tied directly to the fact that we are seeing larger and larger gatherings, as well as less and less adherence to the COVID-19 protocols, hand washing and face mask wearing. So when you couple lack of adherence to the guidelines with greater aggregation of people, whether it is in rallies or in funerals or in weddings, that is a perfect storm to have COVID-19 continue to spread.
Right. Now, one final thing that I'd like to draw attention to. You're one of those who has always been speaking about the COVID-19 test, antigen test that we're conducting at the airport. And you're saying that it's not as effective as the PCR. So could it be that the tests we're conducting at the airports are unable to actually detect all the COVID-19 cases that are coming through the airport, to the extent that some of them slip through the system, so that if they're slipping into the system and coming into the country, these people will be infecting others? Is that also a possibility?
Well, an antigen test is not as sensitive as a PCR test. There's no scientist in the world who will tell you different. So certainly, the antigen test at the airport is not as sensitive as PCR. Having said that, PCR tests take longer and are more expensive. And so there is that consideration. To be honest, I don't think our uptick in cases is due to a sudden influx of COVID-19 from abroad. That is partly because our guidelines require that people entering the country have a negative PCR test taken no more than 3 days before they travel, in addition to the antigen test. And we have picked up a few people, I think over 100 people who were positive when they came in. So while yes, it is possible, it is certainly possible we've missed a few. I don't think those that have been missed would be responsible for the uptick. I think, our sequencing data, which the president alluded to in his address, demonstrates that there are certain, yes, in general, the virus is very similar to what is in China. That is what has been reported globally. The virus does not mutate too quickly. But we did find, certain variants in our Ghanaian samples that had not been reported anywhere else. Now, that is not necessarily cause for concern in terms of, the virus becoming more virulent. At least there's no evidence of that yet. However, what it does provide evidence for is that the virus is spreading freely within our community. Because for the virus to mutate, it needs to be transmitted. And so the fact that we have certain unique variants locally, suggests that the virus is moving freely. And if indeed all the uptick in cases was imported COVID, then certainly the viruses that we find in Ghana would be almost identical to would be completely identical to what has been reported elsewhere. So I think we probably do not have to worry as much. I think there is enough COVID in Ghana that actually whatever is coming in across our borders is negligible. If you look at the US, they don't bother even testing when people come in because they recognize how much COVID they have locally. They are testing well over 100,000 people a day and are reporting close to 100,000 new cases every day. Now, I'm hopeful that we are perhaps not quite as we don't have quite as high the caseload as they have in the US. But I think we can rest assured that even if a few are slipping through the airport, that is not where our problem lies. Our problem is domestic. COVID is now a Ghanaian problem. It's not just being imported. And we need to focus, all our efforts really need to be focused on preventing community spread, preventing local transmission. That is where the danger is. It's not some imported disease that we can blame, people traveling on. It is, whatever COVID we have in Ghana is now a local COVID, and we need to prevent the spread by adhering to the guidelines locally. It's not about the airport.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Yao Bediako. Dr. Yao Bediako is an immunologist and is with the West Africa Center for Cell Biology and Infectious Pathogens. Now, moving on, some motorists who use the Accra-Tema motorway are calling on authorities to fix a portion of the stretch which is gradually being eroded. They fear people will die if the affected section of the road, which is being washed away, collapses. Maxwell Agwagwa has more in our Arrival Life story for today.
The slab that is supporting the bridge is off. The erosion is chopping into the middle of the road. and no one is paying attention to it.
Voice of a concerned motorist in a video sent to Joynews talking about the danger on the eastbound section of the Accra-Tema motorway.
To draw the authorities' attention that we shouldn't wait for a disaster to happen before we come to save lives. This is very bad. The road is caving in. Please, the authorities should take note of this and come to the aid of the road. We are begging you. We don't want any disaster to happen before they come with excavators to save lives.
Well, this is a 19-kilometer Accra-Tema motorway stretch. Well, what you're seeing here is a big hole, and now this is eating deep into a portion of the 19-kilometer stretch here. What we've observed so far is that sometimes vehicles are forced to squeeze themselves into the other lane just to avoid this. We do not know what happens in the evening, and until this is fixed, it continues to remain danger to motorists.
It is a big pit caused by erosion around the storm drain very close to the Ashaiman underpass. Motorists who use the road tell me what started as a small hole is gradually expanding into the main road. They fear that portion of the motorway may cave in if it is not fixed. Some of them also fear vehicles may plunge into the storm drain as the railings on that portion of the road have been damaged.
My name is Wisdom.
Wisdom, okay. Wisdom what?
Wisdom Motu.
This man uses the motorway frequently. He wants authorities to fix the problem.
This is a Shama motorway under bridge. And then this thing occurred the last heavy rain that falls the last time. So I notified this, that was 2 months ago, that the bridge starts cracking like this. So even I try my best to do a short coverage and then post it for the concern of the people. So I thank you guys that you are here now to help solve the issue. So a lot of people are not identifying this yet because you see how the hole is. It doesn't affect to the down yet. So people are not identifying yet until they get to the end before you can see that the thing is dangerous. And what is here now is dangerous. But just people cannot see because every time they are in the car passing. So we sometimes I pass here. Yeah, I've been using the road, so I know that this is what is happening. I think a lot of people too have identified. Yeah.
So what do you want to be done?
So this thing immediately they need to come and fix this thing out before they get out of hand because the next rain that will fall, it will affect again. That one is serious. Yeah.
Dennis Abani uses the Accra-Tema motorway every day to deliver honey to his clients.
When I get here, I find it difficult to use the outer lane. So what I do is I'll wait and check to see if there's no car coming. Then I use the inner lane, which is not even safe for me as a rider. I have to always use the outer lane because my speed is not that of car. You see, so it's very dangerous. And then the pedestrians too, they find it difficult to use the outer lane, which is almost caving in. And I think the authorities have to work on it, and then it should be immediate, or else we'll have a situation at our hand that we'll not be able to solve.
The Ghana Highway Authority says it will comment after an assessment of the situation. Maxwell Agbagba for Joynews.
The Judicial Service says it will accept nothing but the highest standards and integrity from all its officers across the country. Chief Justice Kwesi Enin-Yeboah says this is to help deal with corruption and protect the integrity and sanctity of the service. At the commissioning of a higher court at Asingfosu, the Chief Justice assured a lot is also being done to make justice delivery accessible to the people. Richard Kodonyako has more in the following report.
The modern high courts at Asingfosu, according to the Chief Justice, is to enable the citizens here access justice and access it anywhere they would be comfortable with. Chief Justice Kwesi Enin-Yeboah says a lot of interventions are being put in place to ensure justice is dispensed with in a fair manner and also in a way that will make it accessible to the people. The Chief Justice says the Judicial Service is demanding higher standards from its officers to protect the sanctity of the service.
Since independence, our efforts, tireless as they are, have not brought us the success that we crave in justice delivery, I must confess. Nevertheless, this is not to write off our attempts as failures. Today, we are instilling in the Judicial Service every higher standards of ethical conduct. We are demanding accountable service and integrity from all our officers around the country. As we have grown as a society, we have engineered many ways in which we can assist the less well-off in our society to access justice. Through our judicial reforms, we are facilitating greater access to justice for the most vulnerable of our compatriots, including the physically challenged and those already incarcerated.
Kwesi Yabua says everything would be done to ensure that the citizens would not have to travel far to access justice at the country's courts.
The citizens of this country should not travel far to access justice. For example, Asim Fosu is a bit far from Cape Coast, and it has been deemed necessary to cite this court close to you so that you don't have to travel several miles to access justice at the High Court. Today, we celebrate another way in which we expand the frontiers of justice in our country. This court, a modern High Court right here in Asim Fosu, opens a most welcome avenue for the people of this town to have justice wherever they need it.
Asin Central MP Kennedy Ohine Japan thanked the Judicial Service for the role they have played in ensuring the success of the project. He praised the NDC administration for the construction of the court complex and also paid a glowing tribute to the MPP administration for the renovation and finishing of the facility. In addition to the court complex, there was a promise of a legal aid to support residents. A bungalow was also commissioned for the judge. The Chief Justice was accompanied by the Supervising High Court Judge for the Central Region and other senior officers of the courts. Richard Kwejo-Nyakon, Joynews, Cape Coast.
And I'm back with business. Now, tax expert Dr. Abdallah Alinacha warns government to relook the structure of royalties and income tax payment in the structured sector, especially the mining industry. He was speaking at the 8th Pan-African Conference on Illicit Financial Flows and Taxation in Accra.
Tax instruments have been royalty and corporate income tax. Royalty is what you pay when you extract the resource, and it is a cost when the company pays the government. It's a cost that it can deduct from its operations. And so the idea is that if you take the royalty, you don't have any deductions before you pay. Once we know the value, we multiply by the price, and then we apply the rate on the value, and then we get the royalty. But if you come to the income tax, the person needs to prepare his financial statement, file his tax returns, do all his deductions. And that is where the challenge is, that if you don't have the capacity to go through the records, they may be undertaking certain aggressive tax planning schemes which would lead to loss of revenue to the state. But at the royalty level, they don't have those deductions. And so there is an element of certainty. So in some countries like Zambia, until recently, they don't even take corporate tax. They were taking only the royalty. Because if you take a lot of expenses and report a loss, government gets nothing. But with the royalties, you don't have any deductions. So the debate has been to balance royalty and corporate tax. But you can't have a high corporate tax and have a high royalty at the same time. And so the idea is that if you have to lower corporate tax, we are saying then you need to look at the royalty, because you can't lose it. And so I'm thinking that we could do a simulation. If we fix royalty at 5%, corporate tax at 35%, what has been the inflows? If we increase royalty to 10% and reduce corporate tax to 30%, what will be the inflows? If we take the data of the filings by the entities, then we can take an informed decision which way to go.
Now, 80% of businesses are expected to recover from the negative impacts of COVID-19 by June next year. Now, that's according to the Association of Ghana Industries Business Confidence Index. There is more in this report. The report said about 25% of companies intend to hire more workers in the next 6 months, with construction posing marginally higher, with about 30% of firms in that sector having the intention to hire. But there is a higher proportion of about 44% that planned to make new investments, tax reliefs from government, the adoption of new marketing strategies, and investing in IT infrastructure are the 3 decisions firms judged necessary to improve revenue streams in this COVID-19 period. In terms of loan renegotiations, only 22% renegotiated their loans with banks, considering the effects of COVID-19. With regards to employment measures adopted since the COVID-19 outbreak, laying off workers with 38% of the share led in the employment measures to mitigate the impacts of the pandemic, followed by the reduction in salaries, which recorded 28%. Also, construction and manufacturing resorted mainly to laying off workers, while the service sector reduced workers' salaries. On insurance, the majority of 74% of small firms do not have insurance policy, but 7 out of every 10 medium firms have an insurance policy. In total, 4 out of every 10 firms sampled have an insurance policy. Now, as the number of COVID cases keep rising, the chances of events happening in December have been affected. Meanwhile, Executive Director for Afro Nation, Rudy Kwache, is optimistic that despite the impacts of the pandemic, the event industry would have a robust return to the experiences.
One of the spaces that got hit super fast was obviously the tourism and entertainment industry. For the better part of 6 months, none of the colleagues I know in the local space was working, literally speaking. We put a body together called EMPAC, that's Events and Meetings Professionals Association of Ghana, and we did a little study which came out that the first quarter of lockdown from March to June, losses that we counted were in excess of 50 million cedis in revenues and turnover that just slipped. So for the eventing industry, I think you should watch out for a robust return to the experiences. It's going to be slightly different, but it's still going to have the same euphoria that you used to get, because the thing is this, we are all growing accustomed to how to react in the space. The thing is, we need a lot more real estate to put a lot more people. So if you're looking for 10,000 people and you're thinking about social distancing, we've seen all sorts of contraptions in this period. Well, let's see what we can experiment with, but don't rule out the space. It's nearly not done yet, because human to human interactions is super basic, and I'm sorry, at a certain level, it needs to happen.
Now, the 2020 edition of the Ghana Women Entrepreneurship Summit brought together key stakeholders in the small and medium-scale enterprise industry. Executive Director of the MBSSI, Koshiyanki Aye, says the MBSSI is on course with plans to formalize the SME sector. There is more in our quick take for today.
Digitalization of MSMEs is key, and if you look at it, even at NBSSI and under the new Ghana Enterprises Agency, there's a key to digitalize even this new Enterprises Agency. Why? Without digitalization, you can't move forward.
Well, that's it for business. I'm Charles Aite. Sports is up next.
Gary Al Smith here with the rest of the sport. Thank you again for your time. And we are a couple of days away from the start of the Ghana Premier League. And former Asante Kotoko head coach Abdul Razak believes as many as 6 clubs are capable of winning the title. Joy Sports' Haruna Mubarak has the rest of the story.
At Asante Kotoko in the transfer window, which ended last month, speaks volume of their ambitions this season, which is to win the league and also put in a respectable performance in Africa. The last time the Porcupine Warriors were crowned champions on the local scene was in the 2013-2014 season under coach Didi Dramani. Former player and coach of Kotoko, Abdul Razak, believes the Kumasi-based club, as well as 5 others, will contend for the league title.
As usual, Kotoko is always one of the favorites. I won't say they are favorite to go and win the league. It's not so this time around. This time they have 2 or 3 clubs also in the same position, which is not going. I think it's going to be a real battle this year. As I'm saying, Kodoko is one of the favorites. You have Asufok, you have Mediama, you have Ediana, you have Ash Gold. You know, these are teams that maybe Legon Cities and all that. They are all coming because this time most of the teams that they couldn't recruit the best of players before, now they are recruiting the same kind of players that you can also get. So it's not going to be easy this time around. So I hope they will not say Kodoko, we are Kotoko, so we are going to win. No, we have to work and work and work till that we got where they want to reach.
Kotoko will play their home games at the Accra Sports Stadium due to the renovation works at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium. Many say the squad might struggle to get results in Accra, but Abdul Razak disagrees with that assertion.
No, it doesn't change anything. It's just like when you are suspended from playing your home matches. Most time they go to Accra, they play, they win. It's nothing else. Kotoko is everywhere. Kotoko is not only in Kumasi. Kotoko is in Accra. Even Accra is their home ground. Yeah. So they can go to Cape Coast and play. People will be there. So it doesn't change anything.
Max Okonode's boys will host 11 Wonders on Sunday at 6 p.m. on match day 1 in the upcoming Ghana Premier League season.
Yeah. And in the sport, I'm Gary Al Smith. Thank you for your time. Follow us on Twitter. If you want to watch this very promo again, it's on our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram in just about 8 minutes. Thank you for your time. Good night.
And that'll be all for Joynews Prime this evening. I'm Israel Lai. Thank you very much for watching. Up next, we're bringing you PM Express. Do stay tuned.